welcome back, everyone. I am really excited about today's show. So I have a guest with me today, Miss Jessica Jones, and I've had Jessica on my show before. We took a deep dive into some of the paranormal and cryptid activity throughout the United States. And Jessica is the cryptid huntress. She hosts Off the Trails, which is on Spaced Out Radio. She's also a host on Texas Front Porch. And Jessica is a Bigfoot field researcher, and she has a team that works together, and they actually do remote viewing. So Jessica is a remote viewer. So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about on today's show. So welcome, Jessica. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, Tanya. Hey, anytime. I have so much fun talking with you. So, and you and I are both remote viewers. You do remote viewing too, because I've had you on my show.
Yes. And so Jessica's show, Remote Viewing Investigations with Jessica Jones on YouTube. We have done a few shows together. We've done the Dark Pyramid in the Alaskan Triangle, which was a fascinating show in itself. And we also did Mel's Hole, which is over in Western Washington. And that was even more intriguing, I feel like.
That was the weirdest thing. Yeah, that was the weirdest thing I've ever remote viewed, ever.
That was so strange. And then, you know, I'm recognizing that there's other holes across the United States that are very similar to Mel's Hole. So we may have to start remote viewing some more of those weird anomalies going on.
Yeah. All right. Sorry about that. I think my internet's a little weird, but okay. So yeah. I mean, I have remote viewed everything from, you know, paranormal attacks to missing people to holes in the ground. Okay. So I think we've seen it all, but, you know, a lot of things, it's really interesting to be able to look at stuff that normally we wouldn't even know existed if we didn't get to remote view it, you know, like that Black Pyramid in Alaska. So
exactly. And you do a lot of remote viewing on Sasquatch, supposed Sasquatch attacks, dogman attacks. And, you know, I think that's how you and I connected, was through the Sasquatch community as well as the remote viewing community. And so I think it's just fascinating that your channel, you know, kind of hits on some different out of the box, you know, type topics, which is awesome because you know, you are really diving in there. And so let's talk about remote viewing. What is remote viewing?
Yeah, well, remote viewing is just locating a target, like an object, a person, a place, you know, an event, with using, for lack of a better term, using your psychic abilities. Okay, it's locating something that you don't know what it is, usually a blind target. That's usually what I view a lot of times, are blind targets. And that's how I was trained by, you know, someone gives me a set of coordinates. Okay. 8 numbers, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's all I have. Okay. And I'm able to write those numbers down and plot everything out in charts, and all the sensory data comes out of it. And by the end of my session, my remote viewing session, I can kind of tell you what the target was. Okay. And it sounds wild, but it's very effective. And it's something I've been doing for a long time.
That's really cool. And so there's a little bit of history to remote viewing, right? So from what I understand, it traces back thousands of years, all the way back to the early Greeks. And so this is when they were using their psychic abilities and being able to tap into information. And, you know, I'm sure that they were using it for more survival skills, to find water, to find food, to find places to build civilizations. And, you know, so it dates really far back to early man. And, you know, I think, you know, it started to really become popular back in the 1930s when the government started to research telepathy and thought transference, right? And I guess when I think of remote viewing, I think of Ingo Swann, because he's the one who kind of spearheaded a lot of this remote viewing back in the 60s. He was doing a lot of those out of body experiments, and then the CIA caught on to that, right? And so they got him on board, and a couple of others, I believe, from Russia and, you know, all over the place, to start what is known as Project Sunstreak, but then it ended up becoming Project Stargate, which most people are more familiar with. So I do feel this has been going on for a long time. There's a lot of research that backs it, right? That it's an effective modality. I don't even know what the word is that you would call it, but scientific process, you know?
It is.
What are some of the types of remote viewing? Can you go through those and share a little bit of information about them?
Yeah. Well, actually, what I'm trained in most effectively is coordinate remote viewing. Okay. I do coordinate remote viewing and extended remote viewing. Okay. Those are two different, there's two different modalities. Okay. But there's a whole bunch of different types of remote viewing. And some of them I'm not even super familiar with because I haven't been trained extensively in the other ones. But we have something called written remote viewing, controlled remote viewing, and associative remote viewing, and extended remote viewing, okay, and coordinate remote viewing. Now, I'll talk a little bit about coordinate remote viewing, and then I'll talk a little bit about extended remote viewing, okay, because that was kind of the second one that I was trained in. But the first one was it's kind of basic. If you're getting into learning remote viewing, I think that coordinate remote viewing is going to be the best route for most people. In my opinion, that's the one that I use regularly and every week for the show that I do on Friday nights, where I remote view paranormal attacks. And let me tell you, I got into this because, I was going out with my Bigfoot field research team here in Georgia. And the head of the team is a very excellent remote viewer. You know, he's trained in it for many, many years. And when I was out hunting for Bigfoot, we were having UFO activity all weekend and having all sorts of weird other, interdimensional stuff going on. So he thought, well, I think it's time to train the whole team in remote viewing so we can see what happened to us, okay, out in the field. So we started training. I mean, this was about at least 10 years ago. It was over 10 years ago. So the entire team has been trained year after year in remote viewing, okay, as a team. But yeah, so we were taught coordinate remote viewing, and that is where we're given a set of numbers, and it's usually a blind target. We do not know what those numbers mean at all. They're just 8 numbers, and you get them, and the person who assigns us those numbers will tell us, this is a high priority target, or this is something you can get me down the road. Like, just do it at your leisure. When I get a high priority target, I am on it. I hit the mark every time because I know it's important. Something in my subconscious knows that this is important. And, a lot of times it's a missing person, or it's a cold case. It's something very important. There's a deadline, or it could be a kidnapped person, or, something very life-threatening. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get a set of numbers, and I sit down. Basically, you have to learn to clear your mind. Okay, get rid of all that noise,
which is hard for us sometimes.
It's so hard. I mean, if you ever try to meditate, I always had a hard time meditating because I couldn't get all that noise out of my head. There's always stress. There's always this stuff from the outside world. You got bills to pay, you got dogs barking, kids crying, everybody's hungry.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a mom, and or just anybody. It can be hard.
It can
getting that out of your head.
Yeah. And one thing that I learned in my remote viewing training was called the set aside technique. So basically, when those things are popping up, when you're trying to get into that clearing the mind, meditative state, you will write on your piece of paper what you want to set aside, in that moment. And honestly, you don't just have to use that in remote viewing. You can use that for, in your daily life. I mean, just be like, I don't want to focus on this right now. I'm going to put it over here and I'll worry about it later, so that's been a very helpful technique for me. And, if you're just learning how to remote view.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's actually part of coordinate remote viewing, is that when you sit down, there's 2 tools that you need. Okay. Physical tools. It's a pen and a stack of printer paper. Okay. Just blank paper. We go through so much blank paper. It's ridiculous. Okay. So just get a whole ream of paper. Okay. And expect to use a whole lot of it when you're remote viewing. So, and just get a bunch of pens that write really well, that they're smooth. Okay. That flow on your paper. I tell you, that's like my favorite thing is a good pen.
It
Okay.
is a good ballpoint pen. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, but you sit down, and with coordinate remote viewing, we actually have a chart. Okay. And so you'll write out your chart for all of your sensory data. Okay. And so when you sit down and you clear your mind and you get into your, I guess it's like I call it my zone. Okay.
Yeah.
My remote viewing
Flow
zone.
state. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You write your numbers on the paper. And as soon as you hit that last number, your pen kind of runs across a sheet of paper and you start automatic writing. Okay. You cannot think about what you're doing. You just do it. Okay. And so, not to go step by step exactly how to remote view with coordinate remote viewing, but, your subconscious takes over. Okay. And as soon as you write those numbers down, it's almost like there's an aperture that opens up and all this information starts flowing in. Okay. And it's like you're pulling information out of the matrix, and every single thing that you sense, every word you hear, every, any kind of sensory data, even if you hear like Mount Rushmore or something, you write that down. Okay. There's a place on that paper on the chart somewhere for you to write everything down in different categories as it comes to you. Okay. From sensory data to analytic overlay. Okay. And then you usually draw a little sketch, and then you go to the next page and you start with your stage 4, that's stage 1 through 3 on the first page. And then you go to stage 4, and then you end it with stage 5 and stage 6. Okay. So, and it can be a long process. It can take you like hours on some targets, or it can take you about 20 minutes. Okay. Yeah. Depending on what your target is.
And sometimes you can get bumped out like I did. Yes. When I was remote viewing the Dark Pyramid the first time, I got bumped out, and I took that as a sign I needed to step away and go do something else and then return yes. back to it at another time. And then I was successful in getting in, my second time. So sometimes that can happen too, right?
Oh man, you don't want to get overloaded, because once you get overloaded, you just kind of, you get blockages. Okay. And so, yes, you did something perfect. That's what we're supposed to do, is if it gets to be too much, you end the session, and then you can go back to it. At any time you can go back to it. And I've done that before plenty of times. Sometimes it just gets to be too much, especially when you're doing a target where perhaps it's a missing person or something, and you're trying to locate where that person is or what happened to them. And it can be very, treacherous to your emotional state. Okay. And it can be, it can just be very taxing to your body and to
Absolutely.
your mind.
And I know in my training too, they taught us before we start to document, what have we eaten? What did we just get done doing? What is our mental state of mind? Are we stressed out? Are we relaxed? Did we take a walk? And to try to use that as data. So when you do remote view, you can kind of see a theme of when do I remote view the best? When is it, when I first wake up in the morning, or is it right before bed, or is it after I've taken a walk, or, all those different types of things. So I think, like you said, a lot of it is learning how to clear the mind and allowing yourself to open yourself up to receiving the information coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. I've learned that the best time for me to remote view is definitely in the morning when I first wake up and before I eat breakfast in the morning.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I'm able to actually, I feel like the information flows better, at that time. So that is why I do it in the morning. I don't like doing it after I eat because I feel heavy,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I agree. And I feel like that too, because right when you wake up, you're in a theta state, right? So a theta state is that meditative state. And that's when the information can kind of flow to you a lot easier. So I personally feel much better doing those types of things in the morning as well, because I don't feel as distracted,
Right. Yeah, I'm the same way. So whenever I have a target to do, I do it first thing in the morning. And if I get it late at night, I usually wait till in the morning to do it, if I'm assigned a target. So you have to listen to your body.
You do. And so, what are ideograms? I know that's another thing that they talk about in remote viewing. So do you know how to explain what an ideogram is, and for the audience, so they have a deeper understanding of it?
Yeah. Well, ideograms are little symbols. Okay. And I have a paper here. This is full of ideograms from ideogram practice that I do. Okay. And they're just little symbols like circles and curves and, squiggly lines and stuff like that. And they all stand for something. And it's basically when you're doing your stages, your first stages of remote viewing, you have you go through stage one is, it's basically drawing ideograms. Okay. And so what it is it's like automatic writing. Your hand goes down the page and and you draw ideograms. You may not, you don't mean to do it. It's not like you're thinking about it. It's just your hands moving and you're drawing ideograms. And so that is actually what you use to pull out sensory data out of your subconscious. And I know it sounds kind of weird. You just kind of have to be hands-on and do it, okay? But ideograms are anything from, let's see, I've got motion, water, vegetation, space, air, tools, animals, a person, natural structure, man-made structure, and things like that. I don't know. I can't remember the other ones, but I think those are it right now. And so it's just a way to help pull information out of your subconscious, okay, and out of your brain.
Yeah, our subconscious works in pictures, right? It works in images.
That's
so,
right.
One thing that I thought was fascinating with remote viewing is you don't close your eyes. Like you can, but they taught us to kind of keep your eyes open because it keeps your conscious mind busy and distracted, because sometimes your conscious mind will want to overtake your subconscious mind. And, when your conscious mind's distracted, your subconscious will come to the forefront and be able to bring the information much smoother, and more precise in a way. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they teach you to keep your eyes open.
It's and sometimes, I'm not even sure all the time my ideograms are, it's not like that's what your target is, but it does help you bring it out and figure out what your target is down the road. Okay. And there are times where, if you're not pulling a whole lot of information out, in the first couple of stages, to stage 4, you can do another ideogram. You can do several ideograms throughout the process to pull more information out of the matrix if you need it.
Yeah. And to really tune into all of your senses, because I know I've done it and I've had taste, smell, sight, sounds, a whole variety of things that come through. So it's really just enhancing and tuning in to your senses, but also your extrasensory gifts too, that clairaudience, clairvoyance, claircognizance, all of that other stuff that many of us are sometimes shut off from. So when we are remote viewing, it's like you are just, an antenna receiving this information and almost acting like, when you're doing that automated writing. I've done that before and I've channeled information has come through, me. It's like almost like something else kind of takes over a little bit and it's like, okay, here's the information, and your conscious kind of stands to the side and is an observer at that point, where your subconscious is like, all right, we're bringing this information through.
Well, that actually reminds me of extended remote viewing, and that's another thing that I'm trained in, and that's where you're channeling. Okay. And so it's more, you're not sitting down, writing stuff down on a chart and plotting it all out. You're actually in a hypnotic state, basically, and laying down on on a mat or a floor or a couch or a chair or whatever. And going into, basically a kind of like a trance kind of, and just channeling the information. So,
and I think that's what happened to me during the Mel's whole remote view with the seal creature. It was like that extended. I really felt that something was trying to channel, information through me. And you also do what's called a deep mind probe. What is that?
I do. Yeah. Well, sometimes if you detect a person in your environment that you're remote viewing, you can get inside their head. Okay. And so you can talk to them. I've had examples where I was remote viewing a cold case, and there was a person who had passed away. I didn't realize what I was remote viewing at the time. It was a blind target, but I did detect a person there, and I knew that I was detecting a person, and it seemed as though they had been injured severely, fatally, actually. But I found a person there, and I was asking him what happened. what happened to you? And he told me, he said, well, he kind of gave me a rundown of where he was, not the exact location, but the environment around him, because his body had not been found. Actually, I found out later, and exactly what he told me was where he was.
Interesting.
So, yeah, he was found within about a month or two after I did that target. And yeah, he was in the exact condition that he told me he was, and what I saw. So yeah, it's very interesting, but you get inside people's heads, just to have a conversation, to find out where they are, just to get information. And it doesn't even have to be just people. It could be any kind of being. Like I said, I do a remote viewing show where I'm remote viewing paranormal attacks. And so that includes like Sasquatch, Bigfoot, ETs, all that kind of stuff. So you can ask them questions as well.
Yeah, because it's all energy, right? It's all, we're all connected with our collective consciousness. And I kind of call it, tuning into the cosmic internet, right? So it's like those Akashic records or whatnot. Like there's information out there that we all have access to. It's just learning how to access that information. And I think that what remote viewing does is it accesses it in a more controlled fashion, where in even a more scientific or even a military fashion, so to speak. And so that's why I think it's been so scientifically proven that it is effective, because there's a lot of data behind it. And when you go through your ream of paper, when you remote view, it's because you're taking down data and you're taking down information, and then you can take all these different, remote viewings, especially you as your team, your whole Bigfoot research team, you all can remote view independently. And then that's the fun part, is coming together and seeing where does the data line up, and, where, because I know with you and I, when we remote viewed the Dark Pyramid, I think you remote viewed the outside and then I went in the inside, or vice versa. I can't really remember, but we remote viewed totally different areas. However, we did still have some data that had lined up, and so I think that's the fun part of it, is it's based on your, depending if you're doing a coordinate target, it's really just, looking at that area and saying, okay, well, what do we see? What do we sense? What do we feel? And that's what's fascinating about it, is it can really just tap into all your senses. And that's why I think I like it, because it makes, I feel stronger in my intuitive gifts.
Yeah, me too. And we didn't even mean to do that with that Dark Pyramid. You and I both, like, it wasn't like we planned it, like I'll do the outside, you do the inside, but that's just how it worked. And then we came together and we had the same data on so much of that, that it correlated. And so it was just confirmation, that, hey, we're seeing the same thing. And we didn't even know for sure if that thing really existed.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I remember, 15 minutes before we jumped on the show, we hadn't even shared our data, and we started to share our data, and it was all lining up, and we were like little school children giggling. We were so excited, because it was like, oh my goodness, both of us remote viewed it, but we're seeing very similar things. And that just gives it more validation and more backing that this is a very valuable tool. And you can use it for a variety of things. You can use it for, say you have a few job opportunities and you aren't sure of which one to take. You can remote view all of them and see, okay, well, what does that timeline look like? What does the possibility look like for me if I took this job over this job over this job? And so you can even do it for relationships. I mean, honestly, there's so many things that you can utilize remote viewing for. It's just a matter of finding your target and focusing in on it, right?
Absolutely. You just gave me an idea. I need to start doing deep mind probes on people.
I was saying that, like, if you're dating and you're like, I'm going to do a deep mind probe, what is your intention for taking? Don't teach your mom how to do that, because she'll start doing deep mind probes on all your dates.
Oh my gosh. I know, right? Well, I need to start doing that if I go on a date. Before I go on a date, I'm going to deep mind probe that person. So watch out.
Are they a murderer? Or do they like
I wish I had done
Sasquatch?
that before. Yeah. Would have saved me a lot of heartache in the past had I been able to do that. Right.
Yeah. My instructor said that she would remote view her kids. She could catch them before they try to sneak out, like at night, and her husband would be standing out in the yard when they're trying to sneak out of the window, because she was remote view it, and she would already be 2 steps ahead of them before they were even trying to get into any trouble. So I thought that was funny. You can use it for parenting and a whole variety of things.
I mean, I use it in my everyday life. I mean, just being what I like to call switched on, like a switched on human, right? And it's just being able to pick up on subtleties and being able to, you know, sense someone's intentions before they do something to you or to, you know, around them. And it's like playing chess or something, you know, almost in a way. Your senses are heightened. Okay. And I think that's a lot of that is from doing the exercises that we're taught when we're doing the training and stuff. And so it just helps you in your everyday life. And you know, we're all able to do this. This is not something that just you and I, Tanya, are able to do because we're special. No, anybody can do it. Okay. Everybody has the ability to learn remote viewing and to do it well. You don't have to be a psychic. However, we all have psychic abilities. So you just got to tune into it.
Yeah, and both Jessica and I talk about this on our channel, and we, you know, kind of help people learn how to tap into these abilities and how to raise their vibration, and, you know, understand that the higher our frequency, the more in tune we are to these abilities. And so, you know, when we're carrying a lot of heavy emotions or baggage, so to speak, it's a little bit more difficult because we're in a more denser energy. But the more that we start to heal ourselves and raise our frequency, raise our vibration, our gifts and abilities, our superhuman powers, so to speak, will start to come to the forefront. And you know, I'm waiting for the day that I can start just go like this and start fire, like fire starter, because I'm convinced I can do this. It's just a matter of me getting my belief system in alignment with it, because you know, I've been practicing telekinesis and telepathy, and I know that I have the abilities to do those, and we all do. So it's just it's practicing them. It's like a sport or a hobby or anything that you do. You must practice it in order to get better at it. And so that's very similar with remote viewing. The more you practice targets, the better that you'll get at it, and you'll learn to trust. I think a lot of us have a difficult time trusting our intuition or trusting the information, right, that's coming through.
Yes.
And so I think when we learn how to trust, your remote viewing will just take off.
Yeah. You know, you got to work out those psychic muscles for sure. And, you know, even in some of our remote viewing training, we actually started doing spoon bending.
Yes, I did too in mine. And I think I want to do a show on spoon bending, but I have to get better at it.
You know what, once you get the gist of it, you can do it. You know, it's just about really focusing your energy on that spoon. And, you know, of course, you know, you don't want to be doing that course and like doing this with everybody and then go to Waffle House or someplace to go eat. And then some of the guys start bending spoons while you're eating there, you know, so, you know, go to the Goodwill and get you some old spoons before you start doing this. You don't want to ruin your parents' silverware.
Exactly.
Don't ruin mom's good spoons.
Yeah, I think that's what happened to me is my spoons were like, I don't want to be bent, you know? And so I'm like, all right, I've got to go buy some really cheap spoons that I don't care about that, you know, I can practice this experiment on.
Go to the thrift store.
Totally doable. Totally doable. And if you are questioning this, go out there on YouTube. You'll find many videos of people who have bent spoons, forks, very thick things too. I mean, just once you get good at it, it's mind over matter, you know, and it's just really tuning into those abilities.
It is. It's getting out of your head. It's, you know, knowing that we are limitless beings and we can do anything that we set our minds to, you know.
Absolutely.
There's no limit.
So Jessica, we have a couple of exercises that we wanted to share with the listeners. What was one of the exercises that you had that people can practice?
Yeah, well, there's one that we learned when we were doing our training. It's called the sensory enhancement exercise. Okay, and it's where all you start doing is noticing, describing everything that you touch. Okay, so let's say I've got a Bigfoot here, right? So I've got my Bigfoot and it's made out of wood, right? But when I pick it up, it's hard. Okay, so hard. So I just put one word to it, hard. Sensory data. Okay. Let's see what else I have. Okay, I've got my drink. I've got my koozie. This is my sparkling water, right? So here's my koozie. It's squishy. Okay, squishy. All right. anything. Like I've got a Post-it note, flimsy. Okay. So you're just touching stuff and you're assigning a word to it, a descriptive word to it. Okay. Your sense of it. Okay. Something fuzzy, you know, touch fuzzy, you know, soft. Even when you taste something, when you taste it, it's like sweet or sour, or, you know, it's just applying a word to describe your what you're sensing. Okay. And you do that, and that'll help you with your remote viewing skills, because that's all we're basically doing is writing down sensory data that comes to us. Okay. And a lot of times you can smell things. Like I'll be remote viewing and I'll smell gasoline, or I'll smell, you know, smoke. Or I will, you know, or I can taste something that's so weird. You can taste like say pickles or something, like a pickle juice. You know, there's something that you know, it's not beyond the realm of possibility. You're going to taste something, or, you know, smell chocolate chip cookies baking in the oven or something.
Yeah.
You pick things up that that aren't there for the average person. The average person is not experiencing that.
It's so true. And yesterday I did a show on the energy of color and light, and they talked about that, you know, how to tune into different colors and to feel with all your senses. You know, when you look at yellow, what do you taste? Do you taste banana? Do you taste lemon? What do you taste? You know, so it's just learning how to tune into those senses. And another unique exercise that you can do that's very simple is called the Ambience Exercise. And that's basically just tuning into how things feel or look when you walk in and out of certain doorways. So this could be walking from your bedroom to your living room. How does it feel? What do you hear? You know, does the temperature change? Does the lighting change? Does the smell change? How does it feel when you walk from your home outside? You know, do you smell fresh cut grass where inside you didn't, you know? And just really tuning into your senses of feel and seeing and smelling. And so those are other ways that you can also practice enhancing not only your remote viewing abilities, but also your extrasensory and your psychic abilities as well. So that those are just very simple, and you can do those with nothing, you know, it's just walking in and out of different rooms and different doorways. And I think for me, I've been doing that and practicing it, and I could really, my clairsentience, which is that clear feeling, oh, that just amps up, you know, when you start practicing those.
Yeah, it's interesting, the subtle differences in energy shifts that you feel just and being around people too. And that's where we were actually trained in dowsing as well. And we all have our little copper dowsing rods, you know, and we did we did these we practiced with a partner where we would think good, beautiful thoughts about each other, and then we would think hateful thoughts, you know, and be mad, or, you know, think something that would make us angry. And we could actually the dowsing rods would actually move on those energy fields walking up to that person. You know, it was different for when you were happy and thinking good thoughts as opposed to being angry, you know, and it just shows like your energy really affects the entire room that you're in. It affects everyone around you. It's like we're all tuning forks. Okay. And so we're affecting everyone around us. So, you know, that is just an incentive to be high vibe and a good mood as much as you can. Okay. Because it's a good thing for everyone in your, especially in your home and around your friends. And, you know, and that's also why we need to protect our energy when we go places like the grocery store.
Absolutely. And I always see the visual of Pigpen on the Peanuts gang, how he walks around, he's got this dirty ball of smoke around him and or dirt. And, you know, Peppermint Patty walks up and then she's covered in dirt. And, you know, so that's how our energy field is. It's, you know, you can't always see it, but it's there. And so if you're in a low vibrational state and you're having a bad energy day and you come in contact with people, you can transfer that energy to them and vice versa. They can transfer their energy to you. So it's just more important to cleanse your energy and make sure that you are keeping yourself in those higher vibrations and frequencies. And I know you can't do it all the time. Believe me, it's part of our mastery and learning how to do it. There's times we get pulled down, but it's just making a conscious effort to be more aware and more in tune of the energy that we are putting out, you know, into the universe, right?
Yeah, and the energy that we're taking in too, you know, and it shows you an awareness of who you have in your circle, you know, and who you allow into your home and all that kind of stuff. I mean, because it can really throw your energy off, depending upon, you know, what the people's energy is that you're encountering every day.
Absolutely. And so you wanted to very briefly go through the stages of remote viewing.
Yeah, well, I can. Let's see. Well, there's 6 stages, okay, and the first 3 are pretty much I don't know. Let's see if they're actually labeled. I'm not sure. Well, I can just kind of go over them because the first stage is your ideogram. Okay. First stage is your ideogram. And then the second stage is writing down all your sensory data in your AOLs. And then the third stage is your sketch. Okay. So that's when you sketch something. You sketch what you see, you sketch what you feel. A lot of times it's just a bunch of squiggly lines and we don't know what that is. And it may not make sense, but later down the road, it might make sense in your data. So yeah, and then we've got stage 4 is like you know, when you turn your page over, and that's just more sensory data, and it's just more of your analytic overlay. And so like sensory data is like what you're tasting, seeing, smelling, any of the senses. Your analytic overlay that you put in this little box, okay, there's a reason you put it in a box. That is your brain trying to make sense of what you're writing down with your sensory data, okay? So that would be like, I'm seeing wet, slippery, you know, rough. And so I'm getting all this information, and then in my brain is trying to make sense of it. So I'm seeing a frog, okay? So, but that's not part of the data. I'm seeing a frog, so that's like an object. It's almost like, it's like a noun, like a proper noun or something. I'm looking for adjectives, right? So you put that, like that object, you put it over in your box of analytic overlay, your AOL box, okay? And so, yeah, and a lot of times they say, like when you're learning it, it's like, well, that's probably not what your target is, okay? But that's just your brain trying to make sense of what you're writing down. Okay.
Yeah, because it's new, right? So when you're first starting to learn, you know, at first I was a little frustrated because I was like, oh, I keep wanting to label it as a noun, you know, but just learning how to use the detailed descriptive, you know, words was much, you know, it takes a little bit of time. And I think that's where those exercises that we shared can kind of come into play and, you know, make it a little bit easier. So when you do start to remote view, you can have a little bit more understanding of the words, you know, the sensory words.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just a whole bunch of sensory data. And let me tell you, you do not leave anything out. You write everything down. Okay. Don't discount anything, even if it doesn't make sense. A lot of times I will hear song lyrics. And there was a time where I didn't know what I was remote viewing. I just got some numbers, and I was asked. It was kind of a medium to high priority. Okay, I think it was kind of high priority that day, and I did not know what this was going to be, and I kept hearing this. It's a rap song, okay, and it was from Dead Prez, and it's called "Bigger Than Hip Hop" or something, and it was about a wolf crying, okay, and I literally wrote down like all the lyrics that I was hearing in my head, and I got a whole bunch of other data too, but that was a big part of my data was that song, and it turns out one of my team members had lost her dog, and its name was Wolf.
Oh,
yeah.
So it's funny how your subconscious communicates with you in a way that you understand it, you know, where you're like, oh, I get this. I get this.
Like, I know that rap song. Okay.
That's hilarious.
So yeah. A lot of times it comes through with songs, and that's just the way it is. And that's how it is with me. And everybody's different. And it doesn't matter how you get the information, it's that you get the information.
Absolutely. And so if people want to practice this and they want to find targets, is there a website or is there somewhere where they can go to find, you know, examples of targets?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Now, I did a lot of, well, I don't know where my paper went, but I did a lot of the Monroe Gateway program. Okay, the Monroe Institute. I would recommend absolutely going to their website. I believe it's monroeinstitute.org or themonroeinstitute.org. And you can get all sorts of wonderful information about remote viewing there. Okay. And like I said, I don't know where my paper went. Let's see. Here it is. Okay. Yes. Or you can also go to silvaremoteviewing.com. I actually we had an instructor from Silva that came in and would teach us part of some of our courses when my team was learning remote viewing. So that's a valuable resource, is silvaremoteviewing.com. They have courses online that you can take. Also, there's also websites that you can go to where you can just get a set of numbers, okay, that it's a target. And let me tell you, you don't have to know all this, all the steps. You just get those numbers and get a piece of paper and a pen and write down all the information that floods into your mind when you see those numbers, okay? And then you can click on the numbers and it'll tell you what the target was. And I think you'll be surprised. A lot of times you'll be surprised that you're probably pretty close to that target.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so, I learned from Lori Williams, and I know that she has a free little class at least on Facebook. You can sign up for it and she'll email you the class, but you've got to take it in a certain amount of time. I think it's like she sends out one class per day for like 3 or 4 days. And she just does a nice little overview of remote viewing. And but there's so much information out there. I really truly feel you can go out there and you can really research it. And it takes practice, start practicing on your own. So I want to just do a little summary, for those of you, if you are trying to practice and you want to know, kind of what the process is. The first thing you want to do is you want to choose your target, and choose a blind target, blind meaning you don't know where it is. And that's where you can go on and find a coordinate, or, just have someone, or you can have someone else give you a target and not tell you what that is too, and so if you've got some family members there that they have an idea of a location, and then they can give you that blind target. And then you want to clear your mind. You want to make sure that you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm going to do this in the morning, or I'm going to do it after lunch, or, figure out when is a good time for you, where you feel you can have some quiet time to yourself and clear your mind. And then you're going to receive that target. You're going to receive, or perceive the target. You're going to receive all the information. And that's where you're going to take down all that sensory data, and the ideograms are going to come through, and all of that information. And then of course you're going to add more data, and it's going to come through, and you might want to even stop and take a little break, take a little break, go do something else, come back and tune back in again and see if you find any other data, because you might be remote viewing a certain location like Jessica and I did. One of us was inside and one of us was outside, and so we were seeing we were still seeing the target, but we were seeing it from different perspectives. And sometimes when you take a break, or maybe go take a shower or take a walk and come back, you'll have a different, you'll clear your mind, and you'll have a different perception. And then they do what's called the rinse and repeat. So that's basically where you're going to just do it all again, so that's when you'll, and I do this, it's like if Jessica has a show on Friday, I'll review it on Monday, and then maybe again on Wednesday, and then maybe again on Friday, before that. So I have several days where it's like, okay, more data is coming in, or similar data, and you can kind of pull that information together. And then you're going to close out your remote viewing session, and then you're going to interpret the results. And that's where the fun part comes in play, especially if you're remote viewing with others and you can all pull your results together and kind of review them. So that's just a very basic summary for those of you that want to dabble in this a little bit and try. So Jessica, is there anything else that you feel that we should share, that we may have not covered in this introductory course to remote viewing?
Tanya, I think you did a great job today on this. I think it's just a matter of having everyone realize your potential, and that how we are limitless, and yet everybody can do this. And it's important to just tap into it, and to be sure you, we talk about your decalcifying the pineal gland and things like that. Just taking steps to, cut a little bit of that fluoride out of your diet, and and just doing little things that, like we suggested with the with those steps you can take to practice a little bit, noticing the subtlety, energy shifts and things like that, and getting sensory data with everything you touch and you feel and you smell and you can see it. Just start tapping into your potential, because we all have enhanced human capabilities. We just have to understand that we have those, and start using them.
Absolutely. And if you want to learn how to cleanse your pineal gland, I do have videos out there for that. I have ones that you can take physical things, supplements for, or I even have exercises, a video out there to do some exercises to decalcify your pineal gland, which will assist with tapping into these abilities that each and every one of us has. So Jessica, tell us a little bit about your remote viewing investigation show. Where can people find it and when?
Yeah, well, you can find it on my YouTube channel, The Cryptid Huntress, and on my website, thecryptidhuntress.com. Okay. Yeah, I do it every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Okay. So that's 6 p.m. on the Pacific side of the country. And, but yeah, I have my co-host from Texas Front Porch on YouTube come in, and I remote view something mysterious every Friday. And it can be from a Bigfoot attack to, missing time. That's what I did a couple of weeks ago, was a missing time event that Tex had. And of course, it turned out to have some ET involvement, but it's just something that's usually paranormal. And I look into it, first of all, just to see if it's real and if it really happened. And Tanya, thank you for joining me on all those shows that we've done so far together. It's been a lot of fun.
It has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And on your website too, you have, it talks about all of the shows that you have going on Spaced Out Radio, as well as your War Woman Goods, which she has some beautiful jewelry on there. The turquoise, I'm like, ooh, my eyes are just looking at that. Just some really beautiful pieces on there. So definitely check out Jessica's website. She has a lot of good information. And I was on there last night, and she's got all of her videos on there. And, so if you're looking for more information to take some deep dives into the unknown, Jessica's website is the one to go check out. So Jessica, I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom about remote viewing. And I get so excited on the weekends because I love watching your shows, and I love the super chat. I love to participate, and I'm sure that many of my listeners and viewers would also like to do the same, because I know I've got some viewers that came from some of your shows that are on my channel too. So definitely check out Jessica's website, cryptidhuntress.com.
Yeah, thecryptidhuntress.com. Thank you, Tanya. That is so sweet. I appreciate that very much. It's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. We should do this again sometime.